The last verse of the gospel is among the top 10 scripture passages on my list. It says, "The thief comes in only to steal, slaughter, and destroy. But I have come that you may have life and have it more abundantly." What Jesus is about is more abundant life. That's why he came, that we might live free and abundantly. That doesn't mean that along the way we might not need some correction. It does not mean that along the way we might not need some healthy self-discipline, which isn't always pleasant, but it's always towards life. He calls us to live and to live abundantly. And there are life-giving things, life-giving people that God sends into our lives just for that to happen. So I was thinking, who has been like that for me? I came up with a long list, some more significant than others, but I'll tell you about one. And the only reason I'm going to share this with you is that you might think, and maybe it'll help you to think, well, if somebody in your life, or maybe many in your life, who have been life-giving for you. The one that I will talk about, his name was Father Larry Mattingly. And I met him when I was going into my sophomore year in college, when I was in the seminary. And when he came, I was on my way out of the seminary. Things were not going well, and my first year there was a tough year. So I decided that if things didn't change by Christmas, I was gone. I was on my way out. Larry came in. And he changed a whole lot of things about the house that we lived in. One of the things about him that changed is that he let his humanity show. He was human and was not afraid to let us see his humanity. For example, he was the one who was in touch with his feelings and able to share them appropriately and encourage us, first of all, to get to know them, to experience them, and how to share them appropriately, and how to deal with them. That was a great thing that he did for us. Another thing was that he was real. He didn't spout out pious platitudes. He said real things to our real lives and help us to see how God was present. So he was one who had a great love for the church and was based in his love for Jesus Christ. That was all there. Another important thing was that, I was in college, and sometimes I got in trouble. I know you might not believe that. Somebody came up after the last Mass and said, "Father, I always thought you were a good boy." And I thought, well, sometimes I made mistakes, and I needed to be corrected. But his correction was not demeaning. It was to help us to realize that we were better than that. And he called us to be better than that. And it was a help. And sometime later, he was elected provincial. That's kind of like our bishop who assigns people. And after I was ordained 5 years, he came to me and said, "I want you to be the director of novices." And I said, "I don't think so." And I had really good reasons. And I almost convinced him. But he still said, "I think it's in you." And to anybody else, I would have said no. But he looked, this is what he did sometimes. He just gaze into my eye. And I don't know what he saw, but he called forth something better in me. Maybe you've known somebody like that. They look at you and you just call something better. That's who he was for me. How about for you? I've been thinking of lots more names since I thought about Larry. It's just kind of nice. It's reaffirming to think that. That's who Jesus is. I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. That's the first thing I like about this passage. The second thing is I also like it says, a thief comes in only to steal, slaughter, and destroy. And that's a very good thing to know. And to be able to identify in our lives, what is it in us, what is this about us that kind of robs us of life? Because there are some things. I'll just talk about a few in two categories. One, from the outside. There are voices from the outside which rob us of life. One voice is the voice that tells us that nothing's right with us, criticizes us, and it seems every time they open their mouth, it's something to cut us down and put us in shape. It's kind of as if they think, if I just criticize you one more time, then you'll be better. Well, the reading said, in the gospel it says, and there are voices which are not from of the shepherd. Run away from them. Do you hear that? Run away from them. Those critical voices that just tear us down. The other voice that I'll mention that comes from the outside is the kind of a voice that says, buy me, do this, and you'll be better. You'll be happier. It's on TV all the time in the commercials. Buy this and you'll have a happier life. Or other things like porn on the internet. All those things do is tear us down. They cannot deliver what they promise. They only tear us down and make us feel worse about ourselves. Those are two things from the voices from the outside, and there are more. And also, there are voices from the inside. Voices from the inside which say, I'm not good enough, I'll never be good enough, I can't do anything right, I'll never be perfect, all that stuff. It's from the inside. And that's not a voice from Jesus. He doesn't say stuff like that. Or there's also the voice that says, you don't belong, you don't fit in, out. These are voices, things that steal, slaughter, and destroy our lives, and those are the things we are to run away from because they are not true and they are not life. They do not come from God. Jesus says, I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And what he does is know who we are and call that forth. And he calls us forth in a way of life. It's what's called a vocation. What are we called to? The majority are called to marriage. Well, good. That's our vocation. It's a call in life. Some are called to the single life, and that's another call. However we get there, we end up single, and it's like, okay. Or some people just flat out choose it, and that's all right. And there's a way of life, a way that we develop relationships and it's going to be a good life. And there's a way of religious life and priesthood that God still calls people. You know, I can't believe that God isn't calling anybody more up. You're on your own. I don't believe that. I believe he still calls people. Maybe it's one reason people don't join or, follow out that call is because they think our life is too hard. In fact, somebody said, I've heard this many times, but heard it again last week. So I said, Father, you live such a hard life. And I just laugh and I say, I don't think so. I think your life is harder than mine. And the response was, well, I don't know. That's true because I have a spouse and children. And I said, exactly. The thing is, yeah, there's some hard things in my life, but I know there are hard things in your life. But if that's where your heart is, it's worth whatever you're going to pay. And so I'm telling you, I'm happy. I live a good life. I am reasonably happy in this life. And what more can you ask for? This isn't heaven. I'm reasonably happy because I believe I'm coming to know God better and I believe I'm living out the call that I have, and that can be true for anybody. If you let God into your life, let him call forth who he knows you are. He made you. Made us. So, encourage people, even the religious life, priesthood, as well as to the married life and a single life. Encourage them in that life. If that's what their call is, that's where they're going to be happy. Come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Or St. Paul said, return to the shepherd, the guardian of our souls. God, guardian of our soul. He only wants what's good for us. He only wants what will bring us more life. And we are to be that presence of God in the world to bring forth and to encourage life in others so that they might too know that God has made us for the fullness of life.